Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing I'm going to ask for is agenda changes.
Mr. Mayor, we have no changes to present this evening from staff.
Okay. Going to go ahead and open up for public forum now if there's anybody wishing to address the council, and it looks like Mr. Flavin is here to do so.
Brody Flavin, 724 West 5th. I'd like to speak real briefly on two topics tonight. The first being on the alcohol beverage waiver, and then most of my comments will be on the license plate readers. That's up for consideration tonight. And so first off, on the alcohol waivers, I would support making this just a blanket rule that anything on Main Street can serve alcohol. It seems like that's a business district. That's an important function there. So I would support making that a permanent fix in the city code. Now on the license plate reader that's up for discussion tonight, people move to small towns such as ours for many reasons, but one of the big ones is because they value privacy. They value their own privacy in a smaller community that they may not feel in a larger community like Wichita or wherever. And as I mentioned this particular topic to several people tonight, the first question that always came up with all these people I talked to is that why do we need these in Halstead? Why do we need an automated license plate reader in Halstead? And so what specifically are we trying to solve by bringing these in? There was a study done several years ago by the American Civil Liberties Union, which, I mean, they don't always look out for civil liberties, but I think on this time they did. But in this study, they looked at cameras across the board, and they found that out of all these scans that a specific camera would do, they would only implicate a criminal or find a criminal in 0.2% of the tags that it read. 99.8% of people who drove past this camera were innocent. Their data was being collected for no reason. It wasn't targeted. And as cameras proliferate, these can help paint a picture of a citizen's life, the people they associate with, the church they may go to, things of that nature. And I know we can all argue that we carry cell phones with us, and cell phones can do the same thing if a government tries or wants to do that. The difference between a cell phone and an automated license plate reader is if I don't want the government to have my data from my cell phone, I can turn my cell phone off, and it's not there. With a license plate reader, we don't have that option. A citizen can't say, tomorrow, I'm not going to drive. That's an important function in everyday life. Carpenter versus the United States at the Supreme Court several years ago had a discussion of the cell phone question specifically that I think we can apply to this as well, in that you can't avoid these. You can't avoid the plate readers the same way you can avoid a cell phone. Along with that, as I read through the contract earlier, in section 4.4, it's under aggregated data. This had a number of questions that I think need to be answered before you assent to sign this contract. And so the first thing is the topic of hot lists. And so with some license plate reader companies, they maintain their own internal hot list that whatever agency can use can put a vehicle on or what have you that they want to find out about. Does this company maintain their own hot list? And if they do, how is the data on that validated? Does that data expire? So if, say, we went ahead with this contract and put a specific vehicle on it, 2 years down the road, that vehicle is still on it, but it's not associated with a crime anymore. If another agency using the same system somewhere else in the country sees that vehicle, is there potential there for that person to be stopped? Is there potential there for that person to have their liberties infringed on at that point in time? Along with the aggregated data, they don't make it very specific. So what specific info are they taking? What specific info are they looking at there? And then what are they doing with it? I think that's also a huge key to that. What are they doing with it? Are they turning around and selling it? If they're selling it, who are they selling it to and how much are they making off of it? Again, license plate readers could serve a good purpose. Keyword there is could. They could serve a good purpose if it was targeted specifically at one person or one criminal. The issue we have here is that we are targeting the entire population of Halstead and anyone who passes through our city. I don't believe that we need that. I don't believe our citizens need that here in Halstead. Thank you.
Thank you, Brody. Next thing I'm gonna ask for is approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, having gone through all the bills and payroll and all of that other fun stuff, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Consent agenda passes. We have no unfinished business tonight, so we're gonna move into new business right away. And first item up is consideration of flock safety system, and I believe Mr. Warmer's here for a presentation on that this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Well, Mr. Flavin kind of took my thunder away, kind of introducing this, but we'll go with it here. So I'm here today seeking motion to approve us entering an agreement with Flock Safety Systems, not to exceed $6,000 a year. Now, these cameras are actually $2,500 a piece per year. The reason it's $6,000 is because there's an initial $250 setup fee for each one. I'll start with some background. License plate readers have been in service with law enforcement for close to 20 years. When they're first put in service, they're on vehicles. Officers driving around, they're constantly reading plates. The information that they're checking for, it's not checking to see where people live and tracking them. It's checking the tag itself. When you get a vehicle and you tag it, you're giving authorization for your plates to be read. So anytime your vehicle is on the streets, highways, anywhere, any officer, anytime can run that tag. The difference of this company is the implementation. They're now changing it from being on a patrol car, which is driving around. This company does it stationary. So each camera is set at a location, wherever we deem that as being a good spot. And then it does, as vehicles pass, it takes a picture of the tag. When it takes that picture, it runs it through the state system. It's actually state and national crime systems. What it's checking for is stolen vehicles, stolen plates, people with warrants. That is aimed for crime deterrence. So we set a camera up for vehicles that are entering our town. When it takes the picture, it immediately sends within 30 seconds generally a text you can set up to your phone, you can set it up to the computers in the car, to an officer. It gives that officer, hey, a stolen car is coming into your city. Well, what do we see with stolen vehicles? People come to Halstead in stolen vehicles to do what? Commit more crimes, steal more cars. So it's a deterrent. It gives the officers, hey, here comes a criminal, here comes a stolen car. Also, it aids in solving crimes. I'm sure everybody here has heard stories or even been victims of some crime, whether that's a burglary, vehicles getting stolen. Well, these cameras then give us another avenue of a way to solve that. So vehicles get broken into, and our only lead is a red Chevy truck. Chances of solving that crime off of just a red Chevy truck is pretty tough. These cameras give us another avenue. Now we can go back and we can check these cameras for a red Chevy truck. If it's on there, we have a plate, we can run the plate, we can start tracking back. It gives us an extra way to solve that. That can lead to solving burglaries, getting property back. It can also, like I said, the preventative part of it is the part that I see the most benefit from. These vehicles coming into town, reducing the amount of chance someone can be victimized. And that's the whole point of setting these. Currently, there are about 130 cameras in the surrounding area, with about 100 more to be set next year. So they're going in everywhere. Another benefit to this is me and the other officers will have access. So someone's vehicle gets stolen. I can check cameras in Wichita, Hutch, all the surrounding area. Another tool to recover property for the citizens after, something happens. The data, I know, as Mr. Flavin mentioned, that he's concerned about the data. The storage is for 30 days, and that is stored on a cloud system by Flock. Officers can pull data for 30 days. After 30 days, it's gone. It's not going into some database of, for instance, if my car's being driven by someone. If one of you borrow my car, it doesn't know that. It's checking off the registration only. So I'm not quite following the use of how it's tracking people's religions and where they go to church at. That's not the purpose, and that's not how it's implemented. So funding for this project, we were able to transition with our Axon cameras to a WatchGuard system. Those costs are now being done through the upfitting of vehicles. So we've been able to free up about $3,000 in our budget through that and the tasers that we're now purchasing through VIN money. So the plan is to pay for half of that through budgeted funds and half through the VIN program again. For, like I said, the total would be, after the first year, would be $5,000 a year after that. I will say, myself and Sergeant Stovall kind of worked through this process and had meetings with them. And the good part is it's a year-to-year thing. So if after a year we don't see any benefits out of it, we don't have to continue. We can take that yearly, decide if it's really meeting our expectations or not. From everything we've seen in the studies, and you can look and pull Wichita studies, they have recovered so much property and vehicles, and this only aids in getting into that system and giving us more tools to serve the citizens, really. So, questions? I can go into more detail if you like. Go for it, Mr.
I have a
Campbell.
question. The information is stored on the cloud.
Correct.
Who has access to that information?
The only people with access are law enforcement agencies that you have to go through Flock themselves. They set you up. You have to go through their training on usage, and they give everybody an individual login so that everything can be tracked as well. So if an officer from Wichita is using it inappropriately, Halstead, doesn't matter, you can always track those records back and make sure that the use is per your policies.
Josh, the way I see that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that would potentially reduce direct contact with people that didn't need to be contacted. It would direct it to the people that were in violation, which that gets into an addition to safety, and I'm all for that. How, you say it's an independent station. So is this something that on any given day you would take out on 801 north or south of town, set up, and you would set there with that equipment?
No, the actual setup is generally they use telephone poles or they can set their own poles, either one. But once they are set, the idea is once you set them, they're going to be there for 6 months, a year, if not longer. Okay. Just because the studies they do, and we've already had a couple meetings kind of seeing where placement may be best. And they do those studies with you to get the best position, to get the best chance of finding the vehicles you're looking for.
But they could be moved at any given time?
They can be, yes. The initial, if they do charge to come and move them, if you decide you want to, because it's pretty in-depth, because you have to check you have to make sure that everything is set right, the camera angle, the Wi-Fi, everything has to be set to where it will transmit correctly, so they have to move it, but it is possible if
So you're down here on Main Street, sitting in the donut shop, I'm being a little facetious.
Right.
So you're sitting at the donut shop, it gets a read and it says, hey, we've got a stolen vehicle. You have, say it's out on South 801 at the city limits, you've got to jump up, get in your car, and go pursue that vehicle, or is that radio communication to have everybody, or how would you? Initially,
the plate is red, and that's where placement comes into play. You want to place the cameras to where you have the best chance of, if they're coming into town, obviously, you wouldn't want them. If you want to get them coming into town, you don't put it on Main Street.
Right.
Now, so position is very important because it gives the amount of time for an officer to put themselves in a position to get that vehicle coming into town, such as a stolen vehicle. You have, and then it also, even if you don't get there before the vehicle gets to town, the vehicle is still in town and alerts the officer of its presence. Halstead being small and the chances of finding a specific vehicle are usually pretty good.
So you might have one out by the mausoleum,
Could,
reading vehicles coming in.
right.
I think about Troy, when he had all those mowers stolen. What a great asset that would be when somebody said, hey, we think we saw a red Chevy
Right.
pickup back up there and load up, that you can go look at a camera,
And they now
find
have
it.
3 mowers on a trailer leaving town.
Right, 6 months ago, we had a catalytic converter get cut off
I
a
need 4 of them.
That's what I was
You know,
I was honestly.
I would be totally for that. I just don't have the budget for it. But as an example, 6 months ago, we had a catalytic converter get cut off a vehicle at noon. Well, it gets cut off the vehicle. A person had security cameras at their house, but the only thing you could get was it was a red Chevy truck. With these cameras in,
Stole the mowers?
yeah, close, yeah, could be.
Turn red Chevy truck.
But it gives us the ability to go check and see, okay, we know what vehicle we're looking for. Now, did it pass by the cameras? If it did, we have a tag, and like I said, we can move from there.
But with only 2 cameras and 4 entry points into the city, you're only looking at a 50% recovery rate.
Possibly.
I agree with you.
Because,
We need to look at.
If we're gonna do this, I think we need to look at more cameras than just the 2.
now I can tell you that Sedgwick has been authorized for 2, Bentley is authorized for 1, and we're also working with other cities that will be getting them on placement to maximize the benefit for everybody.
You've got a point there. If Bentley's authorized for 1, I guarantee you they're gonna put it right out there on 801.
Right.
So that would have our 801 corridor somewhat covered going to the north. We could cover from highway, that was another question on my mind. You stated in the city of Halstead. Can we set the units outside of the city limits?
Yes, we can place them. With approval from the sheriff, which I've already spoken to, we can place them anywhere we want. And he's given authorization to place them 10 miles outside of town or
Well, it'll
half a
just help
mile
them,
or
too.
in the middle of town.
Yeah, it'd just help them too, so.
Right.
I'm guessing these things are solar powered with battery.
Yes.
Now, they can be solar powered or hardwired in, but solar power is the way 90% plus are doing.
Makes them a little easier to move.
Correct.
So if
yes.
I'm going in and out all day long, and it's reading my tags, George Torres, good guy, I'm not gonna alert anybody.
No,
The bad guy's the ones that's gonna come up, and you guys are gonna
Correct.
get a notification on that.
correct. And those notifications are based off of like I said, the state and national criminal systems, the criminal information systems. For instance, a stolen tag or vehicle.
Yes,
That vehicle is stolen, but once it's recovered, it's taken out. So just because that vehicle had a hit on it or a tag on it, it doesn't stay there forever. It is removed.
And is there a perfect system?
There's not.
But it's a deterrent.
Absolutely.
We put a
It's,
sign out there that we're covered by flock and keep the heck out of Halstead?
I'd be okay with that.
Keep the flock out of Halstead.
I was gonna say, maybe they can find my license plate, because mine was stolen off the back of our car about 4 or 5 months ago.
Ethan, if we went with 3 of the units to cover 801, 803 in town and coming in on 803, is that something that could be taken from the capital equipment budget or?
Yeah, I mean, I believe, I obviously be subject to Josh, but either Vin or, operationally or capital, I mean, it would be another $2,500, $3,000 in the initial year, so that's a small enough that we should be able to move things around to make it work.
Brad, do you see us getting into any problems with these cameras and the data they're tracking?
No, not based upon how they're currently used and the limitations that they put on them, very much like the KBI does with a lot of our III types of information. It's pretty well regulated. It's a lot more prevalent than you think it is. These things are fairly unobtrusive. If you're going to Park City, until they pointed it out to me at another presentation, I bet I've driven by that thing 20 times and just never even noticed it was there. We do have to get permission if we're out in the county and it's a state-maintained highway to use any of their easement way to set one, but they have not withheld that for anybody so far.
And there's already a couple, like, Park City, has a couple that are actually on the interstate there.
Yes.
Does state use this equipment on our state highways?
The state's been using similar equipment to this for years on I-70, going to Colorado to and from
And no one's
trekking.
got
course,
kicked
for
out of
sure
church
there.
because of it?
Do I?
No one's been kicked out of church because of it?
Nope.
Okay. I think it's my personal opinion, I think it's a great deterrent. It's a safety element that, to me, reduces the unnecessary contact that has potential, I hate to use the word profiling, but we all see things that we're suspicious of, and if we were involved in the police, we would probably say, that needs looked at, but if it's a legal vehicle and it passes through, I'm in favor of going for 3 units.
Well, speaking from experience, I kind of wish we would have had them 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When my Honda Accord left without me one morning.
yeah, because we had a suspect vehicle, but we didn't have a tag,
Only
so.
question, I mean, I agree with the 3, but do we need 4? I mean, we have 4 entry points.
So they're gonna be
3
putting one up in Bentley though.
I was thinking of Bentley
Yeah.
catching that.
And that would link to our unit.
And it could be added too.
Yeah.
If Bentley was to change their plans and put it somewhere else, I mean, we could always just come back and let you know, hey, we might need to add a 4th if you want to cover all 4 entries. But
And I'm sure that city council would be pleased with that, see how they work out for the year. But I would
absolutely.
recommend 3, minimum,
Way through there too.
minimum.
My personal opinion, if this gives an opportunity to find bad people and get them off the street, I'm for it.
Well then,
Because good people don't go to jail.
good people don't worry about it.
Let's hope.
George.
Go ahead.
So Ethan, how do we want to do this? Because there's a set amount on here, but we want to increase it to 3.
For sake of ease, I would say just increase the number of cameras to 3 and do.
9,000,
Not to
10,000.
exceed
Not to exceed 10,000.
Yeah, not to exceed 10.
I would make a motion to approve entering a yearly contract agreement with Flock Safety Systems for the lease of 3 license plate reading cameras not to exceed $9,000 per year.
Second.
Have the motion and the second to approve this, consideration of the flock safety system. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consideration on trash and recycle rates. I have a feeling this is gonna open a can of worms.
Garbage.
In your agenda or in your packets, there's Resolution 1213-2113, which would update our rates for trash and recycle. This is based on earlier in September when the council elected to do the 3-year extension with Nisley based on their past performance the last 5 years. We haven't actually raised rates since 2016, or 2015, excuse me. And have been able to keep those steady basically, now for 7 years, but our rates going into 2022 through 2024 did have an increase with Nisley. That was known. We're also anticipating continuing increased tipping fees, which Nisley can come back and ask for. So we are looking at raising those rates currently. Normal service, which is 1 trash and 1 recycle cart, although recycling is optional, but we get billed the same amount per household regardless of whether they do recycle or not. So that's why there's no cost differential if you choose to recycle or not to. Is $15.75 per billing cycle. This resolution would raise that to $17 per billing cycle, which is about an 8% increase. That we have about a 7% increase in our rates. That we're seeing on Nisley. And then the senior discount rate would raise from the current $13.75 per billing cycle to $14.50, which is a 5% increase. And then we've actually been losing money on our charge for additional carts for the last couple of years. And so we're recommending to raise that from the current $1 to $2 per cart. Doing just a quick look around of our area cities, we're still very competitive in line with what our neighboring communities are charging, or even still, you know, $5 plus below their rates. So this is just a rate increase that's been needed for some time. I did point out we've modified some of how we handle our refuse fund. Some things it pays for beyond just the basic trash is all the community type costs for trash collection, from old settlers to porta potties coming in for the arts and crafts fair. All that is paid out of the refuse fund. We do obviously apportion part of billing costs to refuse because the refuse is part of overall billing for city utilities. So postage, cost of equipment, staff time get charged. And then we started, this was our first budget year to do it, and we hope to continue that, is we do put money into our street budget from refuse as well, because we all know that those trash trucks are one of the most consistent wear and tear vehicles on city streets. But we are confident at the rates we're asking that, barring any unforeseen changes, and the big unknown right now is still where the county updated recycling contract's gonna come in. And we'll have to negotiate that with Nisley at the time. So we might see, you know, modification or rates, you know, if we just go down to recycling where there's not two trucks coming per week for a different service, we might see some rate modification come. Hopefully that would be the opposite way for rate modification. But for now, with our current setup as it is, the proposed rates we feel should get us through the 2024 cycle without needing increased again. So,
Ethan, has there been any discussion with them on fuel surcharge with the price of fuel getting so stupid right now?
not yet, but
But they can back into that, can't they?
Yep.
That's part of the contract.
And it has to be agreeable to both parties if they do try and back into it. So our only resolution, if we couldn't come to an agreement on kind of their charge or their rate, would be to basically use that as a means to end the contract and go back out to bid. So far, they have not communicated anything, and again, we tried to ask for enough wiggle room in that rate, and why it went up, not, you know, where we got a 7%, why we went 8 was trying to adjust for, they might raise on the backside, because they did throughout the 5 years we had them, like when Harvey County raised tipping fees, they adjusted the rate to us, but we did not adjust the rate to customers because the refuse fund was still in very healthy shape.
Have we had any complaints on them at all?
Nisley, no, and any complaint that has come, I mean, in the office that I've been made aware of, generally they have made right same day or next day.
They overreact to correcting a problem, is the experience I had. I had one time I called for a pickup, they missed it, and I mean, the next day they had a truck there, and that was on a Saturday. One time, the dumpster got emptied halfway. I called them, they had a truck there that afternoon to dump it again. I mean, they've been so positively reactive to any situation. I really enjoy their service.
We've had several stories throughout the time we've had Nisley of, even in neighborhoods where people have forgotten to put out their trash carts, and the drivers will literally get out of the trucks and go, if they can see them, you know, not going in backyards or anything, but if they're up by the house, they'll go get the carts and take them down to the truck and dump them and then put them back. So
Back into another segment of their service, and it goes to a comment you made about the heavy equipment, street maintenance, and so forth. If Halstead did away with recycling, wouldn't that reduce by possibly 40 to 50% of the truck traffic picking up trash in the city of Halstead? Where instead of having 2 trucks go through, it's 1 truck?
yeah, it would reduce by about a third, because trash is every week. And, well, I guess no, maybe, 40 to 50%. So
Is that something worth considering?
it can be. I mean, I think depending again where the county ends up with their transfer station fees, I think it will become extremely cost prohibitive for recycling. I mean, what Nisley will have to charge
Heading that
to us-
direction anyway.
Yeah, and so it's something that we've all kind of been waiting because we you know, the community's adopted recycling and we kind of know once that goes away, if it ever comes back, it's gonna be that much harder to institute.
But we recycle in Halstead and it goes to the landfill and it's all dumped in the same pile.
We hope not.
Well,
Where Waste Connection takes it after it hits the Harvey County Transfer Station.
we don't know, do we? Just a thought.
Well, with that, if there's no more discussion, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to adopt and approve resolution number 1213-2113, a resolution setting rates for solid waste and recycle collection and disposition of residential properties in the city of Halstead.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept these new rates for the solid waste collection here in town. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, one other comment I'd make, I get to hear these presentations as they go around to other cities. If I'm remembering correctly, Nisley's also heard some of what was being said here. They've picked up some smaller trucks that are not quite as heavy and hard on these streets in the smaller towns that accommodate the loads but aren't as large as those big units that they use in a bigger metropolitan area. They tend to, it appears, cater toward the smaller cities. And so have, I think, found that to be cost effective and something that was responding to a lot of these towns are going, geez, you bring those big things through here and we're constantly having to repair, so.
I think of Walnut and the damage that's probably been done by the trash trucks through the years, because that pavement's only 2 inches thick, I think, on some of that.
And they get pretty heavy.
They do, and you know, back to the comments as far as Nisley service in town, I've had interaction with several of their drivers. Very courteous, very friendly, every one of them. You know, I've had some interaction with past people that had that contract that wasn't near as positive. So, that is something I have noticed, that I don't know what kind of training they're doing with their employees, but it's obviously working, so.
Quality people.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna move on our agenda. The next item is consideration of alcohol cereal malt beverage waivers for 2022. Ethan will bring us up to par with that issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, two resolutions were included in your packet, basically to allow sale of either alcohol or cereal malt beverages. One for Jumpstart and one for Fiesta Mexico. They both fall within the 500 feet distance of Crossroads Community Church, which is also located in the 200 block of Main Street. So under code as currently written, they do need annual waivers. The city did originally hold public hearings for those initial grant, and so now we just have to bring it back on an annual. Two options to deal with this for longer periods of time would be to either modify those resolutions to go longer, which typically we've kept them on the 1 year because it does allow us to make sure their state licensure continues to be updated appropriately. But overall, just for downtown development, and I'll get on my soapbox like I have every year now, I do believe it's in the city's interest because this is our downtown area. We have vacant properties that could potentially turn into anything, but this is a hurdle that they have to go through that in most downtown districts you don't have unless you happen to be in a dry city or dry county. So, you know, we don't, I think it's great, and Crossroads has done a lot of great things on Main Street and is a great vendor, but they've also been very supportive, and that's great. But again, not knowing what the future holds and if the winds would ever change, that it could also be as much of a deterrent for anyone else having those same rights and privileges that these two businesses are allowed. So I would recommend that we exempt the downtown, at least the downtown business district, from distance requirements. And if you would give Brad and I the direction to do so, we will gladly bring something up for future council consideration to make that so we're not doing this every year or putting one more level of red tape, on our business owners.
What are the potential can of worms that could develop by not doing that? Or by doing that, I should say.
By doing it, I mean, basically you wouldn't have the public hearing, so say a restaurant wants to come
Yeah,
in. and-
you could have the grocery store, the post office, whatever's selling alcohol on Main Street.
In theory, yeah, any business that could get their state licensure, I mean, they can't just turn around, but that's, I mean, whether they have CMB or they're a drinking establishment, they do still have to license with the city. They just wouldn't have to go through a public hearing process
Per year.
every year, and they wouldn't have to get the resolution to say you're compliant with zoning. It would just be they're compliant, because that, both cases, actually, they applied for their state licensure, and then when the state contacted us, we said, actually, they can't, because there is a recognized church within 500 feet of that, and we have local codes, so.
We have to approve both of these resolutions, 1 and 2, so that they can continue to do business after the first of the year? Okay, so we can't just jump to 3?
No,
Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
we would still need these 2 resolutions, because like the CMB for Jumpstart needs to be renewed by the end of the year for 2022.
Sure.
Fiesta Mexico, they have a different license that actually is on a 2-year cycle. So they maybe could, but I would recommend
Okay.
just for them approving those 2, and then 3, we would be able, so hopefully at the end of 2022, we're not back doing the same thing.
Okay, well, if there's no more discussion, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve resolution number 12, 13, 21, 14, waiving distance requirements for the sale of alcohol and cereal malt beverage within the city of Halstead by Fiesta Mexico in 2022.
Second.
Have the motion and the second for these waivers for the alcohol and cereal malt beverage licensing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also make a motion to approve resolution number 12, 13, 21, 15, waiving distance requirements for the sale of alcohol cereal malt beverage within the city of Halstead by Jumpstart in 2022.
Second.
Have the motion and the second for the same waiver for Jumpstart. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And that passes. And I think you got your consensus to go ahead, Ethan, with what you were talking about as far as formulating an ordinance, so we don't have to
You
do
wanna-
this every year.
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
With that being said, I'll make a motion for legal staff to bring back an ordinance updating Halstead City Code to allow for alcohol and cereal malt beverages within Main Street Business District.
Second.
Have the motion and second for staff to work on this ordinance change. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. So now we can move on, right? Next item on the agenda is setting a public hearing date for tax abatement review.
Nope, 4.
Nope, we got 4.
Oh, I missed one. We'll back up. Consideration of comprehensive plan project request for qualifications. There's a lot of big words in that. What's this about?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Included in the packet is a draft RFQ, or request for qualification, for professional planning services to update the city of Halstead's comprehensive plan project. Just, I guess, highlighting, the comprehensive plan is a formal document that's statutorily required for the city to have. The last time Halstead had a meaningful update of theirs was 30 years ago. These are typically documents that at least get substantially updated every decade or so. The comprehensive plan kind of gives a broad overview. Some of it will be kind of similar to information that was in the strategic plan. You know, it talks about the demographics of Halstead. But really where it comes in to, and why it's also a legal document for planning and zoning, is it basically comes up with your, like it says, it's the comprehensive development plan. So how is the city gonna develop? And so some of it looks at not just what is corporate city limits now, but the surrounding land area. Where does it make sense, you know, for the city to expand in the future if it were going to expand? things of that nature. It also gets into current land use, current inventory, and it's referred back a lot by the planning commission. So when they approve variances or conditional uses, they're supposed to be referencing this document and saying, yeah, we did call for, a mini mall to be built at 36th and 801, which, obviously wasn't in the plan, but it's that kind of thing. Or any planning and zoning decision is supposed to be in the spirit of the comprehensive plan. This is something that will need to be consultant-led. If you could tell from reviewing the dates, it will probably take the better part of the year in 2022. Basically, if you guys authorize us to go out, we will contact firms and have them get back. You would approve the contract eventually with a firm, but after that, it really goes to the planning commission, and they're gonna kind of be your driving force behind that until a final plan is developed. So I did have a chance to share the RFQ and incorporate some changes that the planning commission wanted to see into this. It's something that hopefully we will get a lot of robust citizen involvement with as well to help inform the plan and kind of what Halstead wants to see as far as future development. So,
Ethan, what type of an organization or firm would be doing this planning? Is that an architectural firm where a subsidiary of their firm would do it, or who's in business doing this?
There are professional planners, not very many in our area. A lot of sometimes engineering firms will also look at them just because, they have people that are land use experts basically in their aspect. And there's certain, usually you're going to end up with a team because, they also look at utility infrastructure and things of that nature of like with our current water tower, how far even conceivably can you get certain things before you need to upsize. Your wastewater treatment plant has a capacity of X, how many more households is that? So
They can tell us if we can flow water uphill and gain pressure.
yeah, basically. But typically you're either looking at like a planning firm or a consultant firm. I mean, the last time the city did it, it was Foster and Associates, so Bickley Foster out of Wichita.
Yeah.
Did it, and then usually you'll have a primary, and then they'll basically subcontract out certain pieces of it that might be out of their technical wheelhouse, but overall they're kind of responsible for driving the requirement. And we've asked for ours, and that's why I told you I'd love to give you a price tag, but we're in some serious need for mapping updates as well, and so that will be something we'll really be looking for, because the planning map that used to hang in this room, for instance, was from 2002. So luckily, we don't see drastic changes or unparalleled growth, where there are whole sections of our city missing from it. So they don't get outdated as fast as they might in other communities, but they definitely are due for an update.
It's absolutely necessary, correct?
Yeah,
State statute.
it's legally required.
That makes it necessary. Well, if there's no other questions, I'd make a motion to approve the request for qualifications, a request for quotes for the City Halstead Comprehensive Plan Project, and authorization for staff to send out the request for quotes to prospective firms.
Second.
Have the motion and the second to pursue this RFQ for the comprehensive plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. That one carries. Now we will move on to setting a public hearing date for the tax abatement review.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is kind of a boilerplate issue that comes up every year, but basically we use the second meeting in January to review active tax abatements within the city. So for 2022, that would be our January 24th meeting. We're asking you all to set that date because we need to know that date in order to correspond with the businesses who have tax abatements and let them know what days they need to have information sent back to us. So we would ask for January 24th, 2022 at 7 p.m. to be set as the public hearing date.
there's no discussion, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to set public hearing for the review of active tax abatements on January 24th, 2022 at 7 PM.
Second.
We have the motion and the second to set this public hearing for the tax abatement reviews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. That motion carries, and those reviews will be conducted January 24th. That concludes our new business agenda. We do have one executive session on the agenda this evening, and I would entertain the motion for that now.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I move that the Halstead City Council recess into executive session for 20 minutes to discuss pending litigation pursuant to the consultation with an attorney on matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, exception KSA 75-4319B2. And ask in addition to the governing body, the following persons join the governing body in executive session: the city manager and the city attorney. The open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chamber at 8:05 PM.
Second.
Have the motion and the second to move into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We will move into executive session. We are back from our executive session. Is there any action to be taken as a result of? Seeing no movement from the council, we will move on. And we are to the report section of our agenda. And I'm gonna start tonight with you, Denise. Sam? Nothing for me. Mike?
Yeah, over the last couple of months, there's been a lot of life-changing events that have occurred. So with that, there's some opportunities that I am going to be taking on, with company and all. So I hate to do this, and I appreciate all the support, from the constituents and all too. I appreciate, serving on this governing body as well. It's been great. But effective tonight, at the close of this meeting, I will resign this position, as I will be pursuing other career opportunities here in the next month or so. So appreciate everything that you guys have done. Continue to do a great job. You got the city's welfare well at hand, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve with you guys.
Well, Mike, I appreciate your service, and I'll open it up now for any other council that would like to say anything.
Well, Mike, I would like to say it's been a pleasure serving with you, and even though I've been on here quite a long time, you've taught me some things, and I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I appreciate your efforts. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Edward, anybody else? Now we're to you, George, for
Okay.
governing body.
Enjoying the city lights. Thank you, citizens. And that's about it.
Ed?
Best of luck to you, Mike. But I
Thanks.
have nothing else to add beyond that.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I believe this is gonna call for acceptance from the council for this resignation, and we will need a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve Mike Wallace's resignation effective at the at the end of this meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the resignation of Councilman Wallace. After tonight's meeting, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. That passes. Thanks for your service, Mike. And now I'm gonna move on to Ethan for the manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Monthly activity for November was as follows. Police reported 91 calls for service, 44 traffic stops, and 11 criminal cases. K-9 Eddie and Officer Miller, along with Chief Orem and Sergeant Stovall, conducted a search of Halstead High School and the parking lot last month. Police staff continue working on closing out Halstead's account with Axon for body cameras and close out our use of that system completely now that the department's on watch guard. Fire reported 21 calls for service with 11 EMS assists and 5 grass fires. The pump and portable motor on Squad 25 has been replaced and now it is back in service. Division Chief Hoffman is currently involved with a Firefighter 1 class that runs through January, and Chief Van Scoik is getting ready to start a Firefighter 1 and Hazmat course in December. Halstead Fire EMS will also be hosting a pumper and aerial driver operations course that will begin in January. Wedgwood Golf Course continues to have increased play for this time of year due to the nice weather. Staff continue working on tree maintenance and leaf removal on the course. Annual golf cart maintenance has begun, and staff received word that the refurb on the John Deere mower has been completed and delivery should happen soon. Tournament booking for the 2022 year has already started, and staff are working with Bryant on the schedule for the patio and cart path work that was previously authorized. I also want to congratulate Superintendent Eberly on his reappointment to the Kansas Golf Course Superintendents Association Board. Public Works completed 7 building inspections, 2 burials, 8 blocks of crack sealing, installed 1 new water service, replaced 2 water meters, and performed 1 water valve adjustment. Staff also removed and installed various signage around town, replaced and repaired the chain link fence on the levee by the railroad tracks, put up the Christmas tree light and put up the Christmas tree and the lights on Main Street and the city buildings, and then assisted Fire EMS and Wedgwood with projects that they needed. Fall leaf and limb pickup was also performed with 570 bags of leaves collected and 18 full loads of limbs taken to the burn times of emergency. But there's no indication yet if that bill has legs or when it's going to be working its way through the House of Representatives. It's only been introduced. The Federal Energy Regulation Commission and the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, respectively FERC and NERC, released in over
What was that again?
FERC and NERC. Released an over 300-page report on the February event, with most of it being geared, unsurprisingly, towards the electric side of things in that winter storm. And then a slew of winterization and system improvements recommended in that report, which are not dissimilar to previous reports that have been issued after similar winter storms in the past that have caused disruptions in the energy market. And again, those are just recommendations, but they're taking them very seriously, according to the comments from FERC's director. In their released enforcement report, FERC only conducted 10 inquiries, and after making contact and doing analysis, closed 7 of those cases. 2 of the cases were referred for further investigation, and 1 case is still being analyzed. Kansas Municipal Gas Agency continues to consider next steps in the process, including seeing what comes of the Kansas Attorney General's office request for proposals for firms to look into the February event in relation to the potential violation of the Kansas consumer protection laws. The investor-owned utilities continue to present their rate cases to the Kansas Corporation Commission, with many seeking increased rate changes for multiple years to their consumer bases. Natural gas prices continue to be higher than the average seen the last couple of years, so gas bills will naturally be higher because of that. And while the city of Halstead and no natural gas utility, to my knowledge, can guarantee that something like February will not happen again, we have taken multiple actions to try and prevent or limit the chance of that happening or its effect to Halstead, such as modifying our purchase strategy with KMGA and entering into firm transport contracts to ensure a right to supply. We will continue to push out information on ways for consumers to conserve natural gas because of those higher prices being seen via the city's various outreach methods, and we encourage everyone to go and sign up for the Harvey County Mass Notification System, which we will again push out information for people to be able to sign into that to receive alerts or notifications, as that would be the platform we would utilize to send out emergency information. My schedule has included attendance at the Kansas Association of City County Managers Conference in Atchison. I was reappointed to the board of directors there, the KMGA Executive Committee, and then I did have a chance to meet with Harlan Foraker, the city's bond counsel, and the Webbers concerning the Cedars development, and continuing that process along. I'm hopeful we'll have a signed developers agreement for you all to consider at the next meeting. And then reminder of orientation and training for governing body members tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. We will not be doing any sort of meal and trying to be respectful of everyone's time and not run longer than 4 hours. Probably more than 90 minutes. And then
I was gonna say, I might make it back.
also another reminder, we do have a council meeting scheduled for December 27th. That is our last meeting of the year. I know sometimes when it's really close to Christmas, one year, just the mayor and I showed up and one other council member. So if you know you're not going to make it because you're traveling or something, please communicate that to myself so we can get that meeting rescheduled if needs be. If not, it'll be Monday the 27th at 7 p.m. And those are my reminders.
Okay, any questions from that manager report for Ethan? And I believe he's got a financial report for us this evening as well, so we'll get into that next.
Sure. I gave you guys a lengthier one last time, so not a lot has changed. I'll just point out that water now is back in the black as far as its cash balance compared to the previous year. So we were happy to see water rebound there. Other than that, the only real item of note I will point you towards is on the second page, the capital improvement fund. You can see that the miscellaneous, start out with the good news, right? The road improvement project continues to build as we continue those street transfers in there, giving us a good base for road improvements. But the miscellaneous projects, you can see, or if you remember what that number was last time, took a hit, and that's reflecting paying for that spur maintenance that was completely unanticipated in addition to 204. So we're already working to build it back up. But that did see a dramatic decrease from the September number that you were last shown, so.
Question on the water side.
Yeah.
Is it too early at this point on the remote read water meters for accuracy, getting closer to usage and purchase from Newton? Have you, I mean, it may be way too early to tell that.
I would defer to Pat on.
I haven't tried running any numbers yet. Probably could pull some, but I usually have worry about it.
But I'd like to see the ratio of purchase and usage, see if it came any closer. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really haven't looked at that too close yet.
That was one of the intentions, of course, to move that way, so.
What size is that line that comes in from that water treatment plant, Pat?
Which part of it?
Changes a
From
little.
Mission itself is 8 inch, I believe,
Okay,
and then at Essex Heights where it ties into our old, it's 12 inch.
okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
All right, well, any other questions for Ethan's financial report? If not, that concludes our agenda, and I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, council.